Hello, hello, good morning. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. I think some of you might have been considering sleeping in a bit longer today, so I appreciate you being here, ready and fresh for this presentation and for today's sessions. Um, I'm Federico Cristoforoni. I'm the co-founder of Net Zero Insights, which is the most comprehensive database in climate tech. Today, I'll provide you an overview of the funding landscape of startups and scale-ups that develop solutions addressing the climate crisis. Let's get started. So almost half of the emission savings that we need to reach net zero by 2050 relies on technologies that are not yet commercially available. While technology won't fix climate change alone, I think this fact puts a good sense of urgency and of the need that we have to further develop and commercialize these technologies. However, while we've seen that the funding has been consistently increasing year over year, the funding gap still remains huge, and there is much to be done. But let's take one step back. So what is climate tech? I think most of you in this room have heard of this term many times before, but nevertheless, there is oftentimes a lot of confusion, and you're never sure of what's included or what's not included in this umbrella term. So as a data provider and researcher just specialized in this sector, in this vertical, we have spent some time to try and define it and decide where to draw the line. So we came up with our own definition, which refers to climate tech as the innovative products, services, and technologies addressing at least one of the 6 environmental objectives of the EU taxonomy for sustainable activities. The 6 objectives are the following ones, so climate change, mitigation, and adaptation, reducing emissions as well as adapting to the effects of climate change, but also beyond this, so anything related to pollution prevention and control, transition to a circular economy, protection and restoration of biodiversity, and ecosystems and water and marine resources. So any innovation addressing at least one of these objectives will fall within our scope and the scope of this analysis. All right, so I'll show you a lot of numbers and information, so brace yourself. Hopefully it will be useful and you'll learn something new, but stay with me. So the break line is that climate tech funding hit a all-time high in 2022. 82 billion raised in Europe and North America. That's another record year after the 2021 being a record year itself. We can see though that we had this increase of 20% year over year, which is very important because another good year for climate tech when everything else, so generally tech and VC funding had a pretty bad year and a bad time. And right now, climate tech accounts for 18% of the entire VC funding globally, just equity, which is a good share. We probably need more, but that's the status. And if we look at the more mature rounds, so what are usually referred to as the mega deals, tickets, deals above 100 million USD, we can see that the count has been increasing in 2021 and 2022. What I want to highlight with all of this is that climate tech has proved to be a very resilient industry. And well, it's growing quickly and climate tech is here to stay. It's not another hot topic that investors are passionate about. It's a real need, it's an urgent thing, and we see all signs pointing towards growth and longevity, let's say. Very good. So these 82 billion raised in 2022, most of them were in equity funding, but also debt and grants were pretty popular financing types. If we look at them singularly, we see that, yes, equity was, again, once was the record in funding in 2022, if you look at the yearly figure. But if you break it down by quarter, we've seen a decrease in investment in equity, a pretty consistent trend, which has been confirmed also in Q1 2023. So, yeah. However, if you look at other sources of financing. We've seen also grants supported mostly by public policy, namely the Inflation Reduction Act in the USA or the Green Deal in Europe. I know there are a lot of policies and initiatives going on also here in the UK and generally around the world. So we expect more capital to keep flowing into this space. Another angle is the debt financing. So I think it was unexpected to me or unhoped for to discover the banks that we are all familiar with supporting these very important innovations with billions. And I just wanted to show you that the trend is positive. We are growing. It's far from enough, but we need debt and financial institutions to support the transition in order to make it happen. All right, so a quick comparison of Europe and the US. In the definition of Europe, I mean geographical Europe, so also the UK is included, but let's get to it. For once, Europe grew 26% faster than the US. When talking about venture capital, we might not be used to that. And if you look at the total funding raised, 44 billion in the US and 36 in Europe, the gap is actually not that large. So Europe is showing leadership and there are opportunities here as well. However, if you look at the deal size, unsurprisingly, they are larger in the US, both in terms of average and median deal size. And instead looking at the sectors where this capital has been deployed into, specifically at the fastest growing sectors, we can see Europe has been betting on industry, so materials, clean industry in general, manufacturing, and so on, while the US had this massive increase in investment in greenhouse gas capture, removal, and storage solutions. All right, so I wanted to share with you three mega trends and three important topics to remember about 2022. So these three topics will be energy, industry, and carbon. I think the three of them have been all very defining. And let's start by energy. So in 2022, $1 out of two invested in climate tech went into energy. So 50% of the climate tech funding went into energy. This is a very important figure, of course, especially if we see the growth, 56% growth year over year, which accounts for 15 billion USD. So very, very significant. My 2 cents on this is that investors have been seeing the war in Ukraine and the conflict might be an additional reminder of the importance for energy security, independency, and of course the ubiquitous of making it of energy in relation to the transition. If we look at the different steps of the value chain where the capital went, we see that distribution and storage have been the fastest growing one, which again I think is a good sign because, well, these are areas where innovation is most probably needed. So good to see capital matching that demand, at least in growing this match. Then another topic will be industry, which I think is often under the radar. But well, we've seen a pretty impressive growth. So there was a 250% increase year over year in funding going to industry, which now accounts for 11% of total funding in climate tech, 9 billion USD. And if you look at the top 5 most funded solutions, I think everyone would expect to see electric vehicles, batteries, hydrogen, and solar. I personally wasn't expecting to see steel, and I think it's very good to see it up there. It's probably not gonna happen as the same in 2023, but that's the direction we need to go. And then another topic, I think probably the topic of 2022 was carbon. And I have one question that has been asked to me or I heard of very often, and the question is it all really about accounting and offsetting? Well, the answer is that yes, there was a lot of capital, a lot of attention, a lot of activity related to these very important steps of the value chain and an important part of the solution. We've seen very high growth in carbon accounting, more than double, and offsetting. But when you look also at more hardware and hard tech, for instance, at the capture stage, and this one solution, direct air capture, perhaps the craziest of them all, we have found 10%, a 10x increase year over year. So that's a massive increase in funding. Of course, we were going from not much to something, but this is picking up investors' interest and generally and broadly the ecosystem as well. Just a reality check on this last one. Direct air capture, the annual CO2 capture capacity is 0.01 megatons of CO2 per year. In order to reach net zero by 2050, we will need to increase this by a factor of 6,000 by 2030. So there is much, much more to be done. Very good. So this was an extract from the State of Climate Tech 2022, which is a very long and comprehensive report on what happened and the state of climate. We had the privilege of getting the contribution from many influential investors, accelerators, policymakers, innovators, and so on. You can download it for free on our website, netzeroinsights.com, State of Climate Tech 2022. Thank you very much for your attention. These are my contact details. I'll be here all morning, so it should be easy to find me, but in case you have to leave or go anywhere, these are my contact details, and I'll be very happy to chat. That's not me? Good. Are there any questions? No questions? One question. I'll hand you the mic.
You said offsets and carbon accounting equated for some of the investment in the category of carbon. What are the rest of the investments in that area?
Thank you very much. Well, the carbon value chain is very complex, right? So we have marketplaces matching demand and supply. We have the carbon accounting part. We have the capture part, and so on. The exact share I don't remember by heart. I should have to double check. I'm sorry. The accounting part is definitely the larger in terms of funding in volumes. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the very interesting talk. It was great to see steel on there. Just wondering, where does cement figure on that list?
Not as high as steel. In general, there are way more companies working in cement than in steel. Some are also well-funded. The reason why steel was that high is mainly because of a very big round from a Swedish company that raised 4.5 billion in debt financing. So that was a bit of a cheat, but still an important sign for the industry and going in that direction. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you for that really interesting insights. Just a question on 2023. You touched on Q1, but have you got some trends going into the further quarters and what you see and into 2024, 2025?
Thank you. So for 2023, yes, we've seen a decrease in funding. It's been a bad start for every sector. Our read is that the slowdown, the tech slowdown, has finally caught up with climate tech as well. What we have seen, though, is a very much resilience of the industry. And while equity funding kept going down, grants and other sorts of financing are keeping to get more and more popularity. So overall, the sector keeps to be well-funded. In terms of specific trends and topics, it's too early to say. Investors are very often bringing up solutions to monitor, report and verify the carbon markets. There are a lot of talks about biodiversity. And yes, in general, it's a very exciting space. Yeah.
Quick question. when you analyze the data, did you see a growing trend of corporate venture? I mean, the source of venture is a more traditional VC or corporate venture is growing. So I'm just thinking whether some of the big corporates, they're just investing directly in this technology to make their own transition or this kind of thing. Insights.
Thank you, Falling. Yeah, so it's not very easy to draw the line and defining what's corporate and not corporate. If you look at corporate venture capital or direct investments and so on, we are seeing, especially over the last year, a significant increase of corporate investment into the space. In 2023, we didn't look at that numbers yet. But if you compare 2022 to the years before, in general, yes. Thank you very much. I think we hit the 15 minutes of this session. Now we're going to go for a 5-minute break. I'll be here if any of you has any questions. I'll be chairing the entire morning session, so I hope to see many of you sticking around. Have a very good day. Thank you very much.